Good morning, everyone. Carrying up for this little mini workshop on the energy of Tantra. And if you're new to me, my name is Phoenix Rose. I'm a vibrational healer and leader of healers. Healing has become my passion, and not only do I offer healing immersions, sessions, packages, things of that nature, but I teach healing to healers. So I feel really passionate about helping healers, spiritual types, shamanic types thrive in the world of matter and money. So in addition to teaching healing, I teach healers the modality of business, as I like to call it. So I have been in the healing industry for over a decade now, which is crazy for me to say. Started in 2010 with the Healing Touch program. And for the last couple of years, it's become imperative that I study and develop my trauma awareness. So that's what I'm coming live for you here today, is the energy of trauma. And why this is important in this day and age is because almost everyone on the planet has trauma that they're navigating. And trauma in our world is the thing that creates separation. It's the thing that leads to our degradation of the planet, our deep, deep sense of loneliness, even though there's 8 billion people on the planet. It leads to hate crimes and violence and war, right? All of these things are a symptom of trauma. And at the individual and collective level now with COVID, it leads to disease and illness. So it is really important that we begin to not only talk about the subject of trauma, but integrate our trauma so that we can restore ourselves and our planet back to a more coherent state. It's really important, y'all. Trauma's popping up everywhere. A lot of people are becoming more trauma informed, and I think almost every single one of us needs to have the information, awareness, and understanding so that we can help our world heal. And it starts here, starts within. The way that I'm going to describe about trauma for this conversation is trauma is something that occurred in a time in your life or lifetimes that was too overwhelming for you to integrate and navigate at the time. So your really intelligent energy system froze it in time inside your energy body. And there it stays. And occasionally it gets touched. Something will touch upon that original trauma, and there might be some symptoms or memories that flare up if and when that trauma gets touched. But if we think of the energy system as a whole, our energy system is moving. It's alive. Its natural state is highly charged particles of energy vibrating together in what is called a torus or an auric field. And trauma, when it happens, comes into that moving energy and acts as a cup or a block or a rock, right? If we have multiple traumas, we begin to have these places in our energy body where distortions are, where the energy is not moving, it's frozen, it's inhibited, it's congested, and then we develop symptoms. Mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, relational symptoms. So with this trauma healing approach that I'm going to be talking about in the next couple of days, it's a trauma approach that combines trauma science and mysticism. It combines, so the mysticism being the energetic, the spiritual, developing those mystical senses in order to be able to transform trauma. Karma, as it relates to trauma, is something intense, painful, horrific that occurred in another lifetime that still hasn't been integrated, that is now in this lifetime. So when our soul incarnates, our soul is pretty pure. Our soul is an evolutionary process. Our soul is our integrated light. And the soul incarnates on earth for learning and development and growth. And as the soul descends from spirit, from God consciousness or supreme intelligence, whichever way you want to look at it, it travels through our collective data field. So a collective consciousness is very similar to a moving stream of data, of technology. So that soul descends down, and anything that's unintegrated in that collective stream of information that the soul touches as it's incarnating, it then becomes a part of the body's opportunity to transform and integrate that energy, that karma, basically. So we can have karma from another lifetime, but we're also getting karma from the collective field. So for those of you like myself who have memories of 2,000 years ago, and maybe the Romans came and destroyed everything, and you're still holding on to a charge around that, that signifies that there's an unintegrated piece of information inside of you that you're carrying for the collective, right? And again, when we have these blocks of energy in an otherwise moving stream, we get sick, we get heartsick, we have grief, we have disease, we have disconnect, we have violence. And yeah, and really, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of living in a world that is separate. I feel it at such a painful degree. It's very uncomfortable for me to be alive with the way that the world is right now. I'm curious, for those of you that are here, how does trauma present in your life? What are some things that don't work, or places in your body where you can feel the energy is not moving? Maybe you actually have physical pain somewhere in your body. So just like give me an indication of what's happening for you in your energy field as it relates to trauma. What's your understanding of how it's presenting in your life? I'll give you an example from my life and this idea of incarnation taking on what's unintegrated in the collective field. And this may be a little squeamish for some. I'm going to talk about violation rape energies. So just prepare yourself. Until the age of 26, I was a vibrational match to violation, molestation. I attracted it everywhere in almost every single man that I encountered growing up. And over time, I started to have these memories of another lifetime in which I was molested by my father and my brother. I'm not going to go into too many details. And the way that it was presenting in this lifetime is not only was I attracting pretty much constant violation, but I had this really painful low belly. My womb, my sacral chakra, could not receive touch. I didn't want anybody's hands on it, anywhere near to it. I preferred if somebody hovered their hand 2 feet above my belly. And for many, many years, 26 years, I lived with that pain, that energetic place inside of me that was empty. It was, there was nothing could touch it. I didn't want anything to touch it. And then I had a healing experience when I was 26. That was a relational experience, because when we have relational wounds, they need to heal in relationship. I don't care what anybody else tells you. They said, take some time, heal yourself, heal your attachment system, become secure, and then you'll attract secure attachment. I don't believe that. I believe that we have to do our relational healing in relationship. So I had a relational healing experience that enabled that trauma, that enabled me to become fully present in the space where the trauma had been. And as if it were a miracle healing, it lifted up and out of my body and dissipated. It was pretty profound. And I no longer had the pain in my belly after that. And I was no longer a vibrational match to molestation, to violation. It took 26 years, but it finally lifted and it was gone. So this is an example of my own life of a pretty profound trauma healing that took a long time, that came from something that my soul touched when it was incarnating, right? Whether it was actually my lifetime, my other lifetime, or a lifetime experience from the collective consciousness that my soul gained as dust when it incarnated. So trauma, it's a big topic right now. We need trauma healing in order to change our world. You need to do it for yourself. We need to learn how to do it for each other. Right now, I mean, even in social media, the common practice is if I don't like it, I'm going to block, delete, cancel. And that's creating so much more separation, when really, in order for us to heal, we have to remember how unified we actually are and how my behavior impacts you and your soul. whether I want to believe that it does or not. When I commit a crime against you, if I know your trauma and then I consciously choose to act against it, right, I'm leaving a mark in your energy body that could last for years. It could last for decades. It could last for lifetimes. So we need to be more aware and self-responsible about how we're interacting with others. So I'm curious if you had a relational wound that you're still processing today, and maybe how long ago did it happen, right? I would love to see those numbers in the chats. I had this relational wound. How old were you when it happened? And how long have you been navigating the pain in your astral body from that experience? We impact each other, right? If COVID showed us anything, it's that I, standing 6 feet away from you, could still get you sick. We're so interconnected as a species, but we're not perceiving ourselves that way. But we are. And trauma, again, trauma is that distortion inside our energy body that creates separation. So when we return the trauma, when we move the trauma, return it to the river of flow, we have unification, we have love, we have awareness, we have consciousness and presence. It's a totally different reality. So trauma doesn't leave the body, it restores inside the energy system. It becomes a part of your river of life. Now, I say that healing is the restoration of our energy body's original movement. So if things are frozen, if they're stuck, healing restores the flow. And I feel so much better. I just spent a week in silence. I focused on 4 spots inside my body some of them have been bothering me for 8 years. And I had all this restoration of movement. And now my field, you can check for yourself, my field has a ton of coherence in it right now, because I went through this trauma healing process. I practiced what I'm sharing with you here today, which is mystical approach to trauma healing, which rather than rejecting, overriding, pushing out, trying to get rid of, it allows, it loves, it presences, it connects. And in that, it returns to flow. I wanted to share, I had such a profound experience during my silent sitting, and I've had profound experiences in the last couple of years of studying this trauma healing approach that it's relative for me to begin to share it with you. I want to talk about the 5 basic needs of children, and how when children have all 5 of these needs on a consistent basis, they grow up to have a healthy, secure attachment system. And if any or all of these needs are missing, the child grows up with insecure attachment. And that insecure attachment, again, is the distortions of energy in our body that lead to unhealthy adults, that lead to all this pain and suffering on our planet, basically. That's how I'm going to word it. So the first need is safety and security. So as I'm saying these, you can tune into your own childhood and which of these you received and which of them were not present for you, or maybe inconsistently present. And we're really looking at the ages between 0 and 7. Those are the most pivotal, essential ages of a child's development. It's basically when all the information for the life is getting encoded into the energy body. So yeah, safety and protection. Safety and trust. Did your parents show up to protect you? Did they keep you safe? Right? The absence of this could be violence in the home, or I remember I wanted my friend's mother was constantly sticking up for her at school, and my mom never did that. I remember feeling envious that her mom was such an advocate for her, because I wanted that advocation. Not to say it was warranted. I don't know what I needed advocation for. I don't remember, but this can be an example of that safety, protection, right? The second need of children is recognition of needs, right? And this requires a version of attunement by the parent. Were they attuned to your needs? Did they show up to give them to you? There is a whole method that teaches, like, let the baby cry, right? That's not attuned attention to needs. For those first 7 years, that baby needs to be attached to the parent's energy field. It needs a lot of care, a lot of attention. The secure attachment actually comes when the baby cries and there's attention, because the cry is the baby saying, hey, I need something, look at me. And so when the parent can show up and give that child what it needs, right, that's the recognition of needs. The third need of children is orientation. It's called orientation. And what this means is that your mother in particular had a really strong sense of direction. She had a really strong nervous system. And that enabled you as a child to develop in your purpose, right? If mom's strong, if she's sturdy, if her nervous system is sound, right, there's going to be human life. We have to account for that. But overall, if mom knows the direction that she's going and she's taken charge and she has that vertical alignment really intact, then the child's purpose grows from that. If that is not intact, if your mom didn't know her purpose or her needs or her wants and kind of maybe was wobbling all over, had addictions that made her unreliable, the child has a difficult time developing into their purpose and direction in life. So you can tune into these. The fourth need is continuous relationship. So that means that the parent is showing up continuously, consistently, specifically for those first 7 years, but really for all of life. Continuous relationship. It is there, it is present, it is attuned, it's connected, it's consistent. Right? Child needs that. And the fifth need of children is recognition of potential. Did your parents root you on? Did they set you up for success in your life? Were they your champion? Did they tell you that you could do anything and help you do it, right? Did they send you out into the world with a blessing and love? Recognition of potential. I remember I was trying to graduate high school early because I was miserable. As a highly sensitive person in a crazy big school without a lot of these needs intact. And I didn't have a secure attachment system. And what I needed to do is get myself out of there. So I was trying to graduate in 3 years and I was failing math because I never really thrived in math. And my parents told my entire family system that I wasn't going to graduate. And nobody came to my graduation party. But I graduated because I'm very determined. And it was an example of not having that recognition of potential that was really painful for me at 17 years old. That left a mark. And so this is just an example of how that recognition of potential could present or not present. So I'm curious, as you listen to these 5 needs, which ones did you have? Which ones were missing? Were you one of the lucky ones that had all 5 intact? That's amazing, right? And this is important, especially if you're a parent, to recognize these 5 needs. How are you showing up to give them to your children? And as a grown child, what do you need to repair and integrate inside of yourself so that you can become a healthy adult? Healthy children grow up, they become healthy adults. Unhealthy children grow up, they create the crimes against humanity. They have to spend their adulthood healing from their childhood. And most people are doing the best that they can, but we could do better. I'm here to be an advocate for us doing better. Yeah, so which of those needs did you receive and did you not? Right. Yeah. It's been really fun to dive deep into trauma healing. I had trauma healing previously, but in 2021, I encountered trauma in a couple of clients and also in myself that my previous trauma training couldn't stand up against. Their trauma was bigger than what I had learned and what I had capacity for. So I had to grow my capacity because I didn't want to repeat that. It was a huge learning lesson. I needed bigger capacity so that I could show up bigger for a wider range of nervous systems. I had a smaller range of capacity with a smaller range of nervous systems previously. This approach builds our capacity. So, and again, this approach, because it's mystical, because it's energetic, isn't necessarily something that you're going to cognitively understand. It's something that you need to experience to understand. It's an experiential, energetic transformation. So I'm going to introduce it now. It's called Feeling You, Feeling Me. Feeling You, Feeling Me. I'm curious how many of you have experienced somebody saying, wow, I really feel you, when you don't feel them feeling you at all. And again, I thought I was being felt in my life until I started studying this approach. And I realized the first time that I actually got touched inside my energy system, inside my pain, that I had never been felt really in my life, ever, until a couple of years ago. Ever. People had said that they were feeling me. I had a concept, I thought they were feeling me, but until I actually experienced it again, that experiential evidence, I didn't know. I didn't know what I was missing. So feeling you, feeling me. An example of this is, say you and I are doing a session and you're sharing with me that your mother was really abusive, and now when a loud noise happens, you sort of flinch, and you're sharing with me that like jumpy nervous system is really inhibiting to your productivity, right? Let's, as an example. If you were sharing this with me, in order for me to be feeling you, I would have to be tracking your system. I have to be inside of your energy system with you as you were sharing. And I'd have to be noticing that when you share, something abrupt or loud happens and there's a response, I would have to be tracking that movement and touching it with you, right? I am sharing your experience with you because, again, we are not separate. We are connected. Our pain comes from the separation, not being seen, felt, heard, and touched in this way. So when you share, something loud and intense happens, and I have a reaction, and it's becoming debilitating for my life, right? Right there, I'm tracking. I notice that when that loud noise happens, your whole system jumps, and that there's a part of you that like recoils in fear, right? So that the jumping and the recoiling in fear, when something intense happens, my field jumps, I recoil. That's called a process, right? And that process is a result of a trauma that occurred. So say, yeah, my mother was abusive. She would come in, she would yell, she would hit me. So when I hear something loud, my system remembers that, and it has the same process that it goes through every time. It gets supercharged and on alert, and then something in me pulls back in fear. When I touch that process with you, when I'm aware, when I can reflect it to you, it begins to melt. It begins to restore. When I say, wow, I can feel how scary that must have been, because I'm actually feeling the fear inside your system, not because I think it was scary, but because I'm feeling the fear inside your system. Wow, I can really feel how the whole system goes on high alert. And I'm also mimicking the movements that I'm sensing, like, ooh, supercharge, and I noticed that recoil. Did you notice that recoil? I was watching that recoil, right? Feeling you, feeling me is a very psychic process. You have to be really attuned in order to track what's going on with another human in a way that's actually accurate. Trauma in our system creates inaccuracy of perception, right? It does. We are going to be more accurate if we are clear, because information, if you're sharing information with you, it comes into my energy body. Your system informs mine, and it can inform me to the degree in which I can receive your form into my body. And if I have trauma, I'm not going to be able to receive it very deeply. And if my trauma matches some of your trauma, it's going to hit that, and I'm going to have a projection based on my trauma. Versus if you've done your healing work, if you've cleared out your vessel, you don't have to be perfect. Then that form comes all the way in, and you have accurate perception. Right? This is why this healing is so important, because most of us don't have accurate perception. How many of you struggle with your intuition, right? Where you wish it was clear, but it's not. And how many of you feel like you have a really great intuition? I'm also curious about that. So information, your form is coming into me, and my form is coming into you to the degree in which you are able to receive it. Information. So tomorrow I'll be doing some live healings with this approach. So live trauma healings, if you want to hop on live for healing, you can do that. I will be demoing this technique because, again, it's so experiential. I could talk concept about it, but until you're in the experience and you feel the transformation, it's very difficult to cognitively understand. What I love about the approach of feeling you, feeling me, as I'm calling it here, is that, again, instead of making you wrong, pushing it out, moving away from something, rejecting or judging something, we're simply allowing it to be in this space, and we're touching it together so that you don't have to be in your pain alone. And this is so profound for so many people. When you don't have to be in your pain alone, the pain is there because it hasn't been touched. It's separate from the world. Nobody understands because they don't. They're not touching it. They're not feeling it. They're saying that they're feeling it and they're not feeling it. But when it gets felt, when there's a shared experience of the pain, it melts, transforms. It's very simple and so profound. But it's not. It's not simple. It takes a refined, attuned presence. It's a somatic-based therapy, a somatic-based approach that allows, that loves, that accepts, and that requires really deep attunement in order for it to work. So the teacher who taught it to me, Thomas Hubel, is the most psychic human I've ever met. He has the most coherent energy field I've ever experienced. He can transform an entire room of 200 people without a direct conversation because he's done this work. He's cleared out his vessel. He's incarnated time and time again on this mission, and he's elevated his consciousness to be able to do so. Now, as a healer, how many of you are healers? I would love to know that in the comments too. As a healer, it is my job to heal. That means myself and the world. And right now I'm in this awareness that when I walk by somebody in pain, or if somebody directly asks me for help and I don't give it to them, I'm not showing up for my purpose. If I don't give it to them and I'm able to, I want to distinguish, because sometimes you're not in a resource place to give and you shouldn't. But if somebody asks you for help and you're able to give it to them, but you say no, we're creating more separation. We're creating more separation. And I'm here to be an advocate for unity, for love, for the fact that we're all interconnected. We all are. And therefore, we shouldn't be turning our backs on people in need. And boundaries, of course. We need to have a point. We need to take care of our energy systems. We need to know what we're capable of giving and not overextend from our stores of energy. But we need to take a bigger stand for each other and showing up to love one another. I was in church a couple weeks ago and the message was, how do you know that you're part of God's family? And it was by the way that you love, right? Do you love sometimes with stipulations, with conditions? Do you love when it's easy and you're feeling full and abundant and generous? Or do you love all the time, no matter what state you're in? Maybe you give your last morsel of food to somebody who's hungrier than you are. Maybe you give that free healing session, whereas other people are paying you $500 for the same thing. Right? How are you loving? Because love is going to be that thing that restores our planet. One of the things. There's many things needed. But love, acceptance, being with each other. Yeah. I'm going to time check. I'm on my phone. Oh yeah, great. I said it was going to be 30 minutes. So again, I will be coming live tomorrow to do the live healings. And if you're interested in learning more about trauma healing, we're going to spend the next 6 months in Rainbow Warrior learning this approach, learning more trauma concepts, trauma science, and applications for clients for healing, for transformation. Rainbow Warrior is going to have a lot of trauma healing this time, this round, but it also has tons of other modalities: energy healing, psychic development, plant medicine, facilitation. There's 2 different retreats, one in Sedona in May and one in Mexico in September. You could choose to participate in either or both experiences. But if you're wanting to be a well-rounded healer, if you're wanting to take your healing business to the next level, to make more money, to have a bigger impact, to get more confidence in the modalities that you're going to share and teach with the world, Rainbow Warrior is an amazing opportunity. So I'll put the link to check it out and apply if you're interested. Right now, for the next week, it's super discounted, super discounted. So many people are struggling financially right now in the world. And so I discounted everything because I want to make it more reachable, because I'm here for healing and our world needs healing. So it won't be this discounted forever, but it is right now. And I have maybe like 2 more opportunities for somebody to participate in this. Again, we're going to be doing tons of trauma healing. This technique in itself, game changing, life changing. I'm so coherent right now after 2 years of being really in my material, in my process, getting cleaned out, turned inside out. I am living proof that it works well, and it's going to last. I feel this coherence is my new baseline. And I'm so excited about it, and I want to share it. So feel free to check out Ramble Warrior, fill out an application for the discount. Again, it's an amazing opportunity if you're wanting to develop as a healer. And I'll see some of you tomorrow for the live healing sessions. And thanks for tuning in to this Thursday Energy of Trauma mini workshop.